Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas Eve from Tekking 101 and Bury the Brick. I would take a sip of this. It's peppermint tea, but I just brewed it and it is extraordinarily hot. So I'm just going to set this aside in my little Dalek mug and we'll come back to that later in the video. This is a new, not a new, but this is a microphone stand that I never got around to really setting up. And I'm not really sure if I like this setup or the old one, so let me know. It's been a while since I made a video on the old vlog channel. I was using this to upload old Yu-Gi-Oh! Episodes between me and Briggs, but I kind of stopped doing that back in, like, the summer. I think, like, June was the last time I uploaded on here. And I was doing the charity stream the other day, and people were like, hey, you haven't uploaded on, like, the side channel in forever. You should do that some more. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I probably should, right? And, it's Christmas time. It's a nice, jolly time of the year. And, I used to always tell stories on the old side channel back in the day. Most of them were just stories I made up, which is always funny whenever somebody will comment on, like, a story I'll tell on here from, like, way back in the day. And someone will inevitably be like, I can't believe that happened. And it's like, oh, they actually, okay, yeah, no, those were all made up. That was the whole point. My life is very boring and uninteresting. So I was like, I'm just going to tell a crazy story about something that happened in my life. Yeah. But to show you that my life is so boring, I'm going to tell you a story that is actually true in this one. And it's a story I think about pretty much every Christmas. And there's no, like, big bombastic finish. It isn't like the hero's journey or something. This is the crescendo of this story where you're all going to be on the edge of your seat. It's just something that, like, lives rent-free in my head that just comes up every Christmas Eve, actually, because the story takes place on Christmas Eve. So here's the story. This is an actual Tekking 101 story, all right? So, I guess I should give some background first. So I'm sure most of you probably already know this. So growing up, my mom's side of the family was Ukrainian Orthodox, or still is Ukrainian Orthodox. So I would always celebrate Christmas January 7th. So my Christmas Eve was January 6th and then January 7th. And that was always really cool because I basically got 2 Christmases growing up. My dad's side of the family was still celebrating it on the 25th. And so I would go down there on the 25th, and then on the 7th, I would get all my presents, and it was just a great time, and I got extra days off of school, and it was just fantastic, right? The only unfortunate thing about it is that when everybody else was getting, like, really, really excited for Christmas, like, around that time of year, like in December, I didn't feel the same kind of excitement because, like, my Christmas was later. And, everybody would come back from school, like, kind of, like, bummed out that Christmas is over. But I would just be kind of like, oh, yeah, but Christmas is still going on. And be like, yeah, but for you, but not for us. And I'd be like, yeah. So it kind of, like, it was, like, not synced right with me and, like, the other kids in my school or whatever. But it was awesome to have, like, 2 Christmases growing up. It was great, as you can imagine, for a kid, especially since I was an only child, too. So it was just like, I got a lot of crap. I got a lot of presents. So, flash forward to 2012. I am 19 years old. I am working at Dollar Tree at this point. I had been working there. This is my, like, first full year working there. I got hired in December of 2011. This is December of 2012, all right, which is now 12 years ago, which is insane that this story I'm about to tell you, which I can remember so well and vividly, happened over a decade ago. 12 fucking years ago. That is, I'm going to see if this peppermint tea is cool enough for me to drink now, dramatically. Oh, that's good. Oh, that is good. Oh, wow, that is very peppermint. Wow, that's, that is soothing. Okay, so because I always celebrate Christmas on January 7th, December 25th kind of had less of an impact for me, and December 24th, Christmas Eve, had 0 impact on me. Like, that was always, like, that was what I'm talking about. Like, all my friends on Christmas Eve were like, oh my God, Santa's coming, this is great. And I was always just like, this is just a day. This is just an ordinary day, right? So when I was working at Dollar Tree, we would be open Christmas Eve, as would be a lot of other stores. Like Walmart would close at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and they were the big store in like the plaza that I worked in. So like the plaza, the big store was Walmart, then there was Dollar Tree, there was a Fashion Bug back then, which has since been like, I think that whole business, went bankrupt. There was a Goodwill, there was a Verizon store. All those stores were like closed on Christmas Eve, right? So it was like Walmart and Dollar Tree. Walmart closed at 6. Dollar Tree closed at 7. For some reason, Dollar Tree was open later than Walmart. So, whatever. Now, nobody ever wanted to work the closing shift on Christmas Eve because no shit, right? Like, everybody wanted to be with their families on Christmas or go to church or just do some function, have a fun time, go look at Christmas lights or whatever people do. Everybody has their own family Christmas tradition. Let me know down below in the description or the comments what was your like family Christmas tradition. It might be something simple, like maybe you go out and eat at a particular restaurant, or maybe you go to a family member's house, or maybe you go and look at Christmas lights up and down, like, because some neighborhoods will do that, like super fancy Christmas lights. You just kind of drive through it and like, ooh, look at those. I've done that before. Right. Okay, fantastic. So everybody wanted to be with their families. Nobody wants to work at a Dollar Tree until 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve, right? But since I didn't care, I would always tell my boss, like, yeah, I'll work close. I don't care. And our boss was always really trying to be fair about it, like trying to bring everybody on Christmas Eve. So, like, nobody was like, oh, I have Christmas Eve off and everybody else has to work. So we try to do it as fair as possible, right? So December 24th, 2012, I'm working close with the assistant manager at the time. Her name was Deb. She was a lovely lady. I have no idea what happened to her because she stopped working there, I think, like 2 years after I started. So, Deb, if you're watching this or it's somewhere in the world, Merry Christmas. I have no idea what happened. I've never heard of her afterwards. But I hope everything's good with you. Merry Christmas. Anyway, so we're working all day, and usually people stop coming into the store around like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Early on Christmas Eve would always be super busy because it'd be full of people that are just scrambling trying to get like last minute stuff, like, oh man, I forgot to get wrapping paper. Oh, I gotta go to the Dollar Tree. Oh man, I forgot to get a card for my grandma. I gotta get that. So like, early morning, like opening shift on Christmas Eve, dude, there'd be people lined up, outside, like waiting to get in because they just want to get in, grab their last minute Christmas shit that they forgot about, and then get back and like wrap presents. Oh man, I got like 14 presents I need to wrap, man. I gotta be at grandma's at 4 for dinner. Oh man, it's a very stressful time of year. So, that usually tended to like abate by like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then usually by like 5 o'clock when it started getting dark outside, it's December, it gets dark early, people would just stop coming in. So like the last few hours you're working at Dollar Tree, like nobody's coming in on Christmas Eve. Or if somebody does walk in, it's like, I'm just going to get like one thing of wrapping paper and then I'm out. You know what I mean? Like they come in, grab one thing and leave. Okay. So it's like around 6. So we're closing in about an hour. Walmart just closed. Everybody's leaving. The parking lot's empty aside from me and like Deb's cars are out there and they're lonesome. Everybody's gone, this cold, lightly snowing Christmas. Deb went into the back room where the office was, maybe to like just take a nap or just relax because like there's nothing to do. So it's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll watch the front. No big deal, So she went back there. I didn't see her for a while. So I'm just by myself, just like up at the front of the store, like supposed to be doing work. Like that's what like is like, if you got lean, you got time to lean, you got time to clean kind of shit. But it's like, it's Christmas Eve, so I don't care. I'm sweeping the floor a little bit, but I'm not gonna like, oh man, it's Christmas Eve, time to get stuff done, I'm gonna put out as many boxes as I can. Like, no, I'm whatever. It's like there's no one coming in, it's just fine. So I'm just kind of meandering around the store, probably going on my phone, watching YouTube. One thing I would always do is go into the book aisle because we would always get like a bunch of like random discount clearance books, like the books that like bookstores weren't selling. We would always end up with like boxes of them. Sometimes we get cool ones. One time we had this giant compendium of H.P. Lovecraft, just like a short story compendium of H.P. Lovecraft, and there was this really cool like satanic-esque symbol on the cover of it. It was this like black felt book. I still have it somewhere, and it just looked like super metal, and I was like, oh, I need to buy this, right? So yeah, we got some cool stuff in every now and then. So I'd be back there reading random books in the book aisle that we would have, maybe whatever, and this guy walks into Dollar Tree. And like I said, this is a boring story. This guy didn't walk in. He's like, I don't know, like a professional wrestler. John Cena walks into Dollar Tree. I wouldn't be able to see him, but he was there. Trust me. It was like, no, it was nobody. It was just a dude. It was just a guy, a nondescript dude. He walked in, looked to be about maybe in his late 50s, early 60s. Kind of just had like a normal jacket, flannel shirt, maybe like short curly hair, I think. Yeah, probably like that general description. Just a guy, right? Okay. And he walked in, and I didn't even really register. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a customer. That's what we get at Dollar Tree, So I figure, yeah, he's probably just going to go in there, grab something, and leave. And so I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the register, like when he walks up and stuff. So like I'm around the store, just kind of meandering. And about maybe like 10 minutes go by, and I'm walking around the store, and he's just kind of looking. He's just like walking through the aisles, like he doesn't have a cart, he doesn't have a basket, he just doesn't have anything he's purchasing. He's just walking through the aisles, just kind of like looking at the shelves. And so, I ask him, I'm like, because I don't like to be one of those, I was never one of those employees that'd be like, hi, welcome to Dollar Tree. Can I help you find anything today? What are you looking for? Like, because I hate that about stores. Like, I hate it. You ever been to a store where, like, the moment you take one step across the threshold of the store, someone's like, hi, can I help you find anything today? It's like, just walked in the store, dude. Just walked in here. Like, geez, just dial it down a notch or two. It's cool, So I never like to be that person. But, like 10 minutes, he's looking around. I'm, like, sweeping up. And I'm like, oh, hey, man, you need anything, just let me know. I'm just anything, help finding anything or anything. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm just browsing. I'm like, cool, yeah, all right, well, just let me know. And I'm just like, continue on sweeping the floor or whatever. And as I'm doing that, I kind of realize, like, man, I'm feeling like kind of sad for this guy, because like I'm starting to put this in context. Like, it's Christmas Eve, which, like I said, for me on December 24th is not really that big of a deal, because I never have any like special memories attached to it growing up. So like, to me, it's not a big deal. But like, for most people, it's a big deal. For most people, it's like, it's Christmas Eve. It's a time you spend with your family and stuff. And this guy is out, like the one store that's open in town at like 7:15 at night, in a Dollar Tree, not even because he needed to buy anything, but just because he's just bored and lonely. And like, what a day to be bored and lonely on like Christmas Eve, you know what I mean? So I'm like sweeping up, and I'm like, man, So I start chatting with the guy. I start talking to him, right? And he is very welcome to that. Like, as soon as I start talking to him, he gets a big smile on his face, and I'm just there leaning on my little broom thing, and I just start bullshitting with him a bunch of random stuff. I don't remember anything specific in the conversation, and he told me his name, but I forget what it is. Let's just call him, I don't know. I feel like Peter is a name. I don't think that was his real name, but I don't know. That's the name that popped into my head the first time. Maybe I'm just thinking of Peter Griffin. It was Peter Griffin that walked in. It was crazy. It was the real-life Peter Griffin that walked into my Dollar Tree. It was wild. No, it was just a dude, right? We'll just call him Peter. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just bullshitting with Peter, right? And I remember one thing. He told me that because I asked him, like, oh, what do you do for a living and stuff like that? And he's like, oh, I run a vacuum cleaner repair business. And I'm like, yeah, oh, now I say, oh, that's cool. But like, inside, I'm like, because I'm like 19 at this point, I cannot think of a sadder, more boring job than running a vacuum cleaner repair business. Because like, to me, that sounds like an antiquated relic from like the 1980s. Like, that's like something that like people don't go to anymore. you know, like a vacuum cleaner repair shop. Like, do they still have those? Like, that was like my immediate, like, I didn't say that to the guy, but like, that was my immediate, like, oh, those still exist, you know, like kind of thing, right? Because I feel like most people with like the abundance of everything now, like if you have a vacuum cleaner and it breaks and it just stops working, most people just kind of like, ah, damn it. All right, I'll just go to Walmart and just buy another cheap vacuum cleaner or something, right? Like I feel like that's what most people do. They don't take it to like a shop to get repaired, but what do I know? Maybe people use it. And by the way, this was before I watched Breaking Bad. I wasn't into Breaking Bad at this point, but now like as I started watching it later, this whole story has like a different context because like Ed, who is the disappearer from Breaking Bad, the dude that like runs the vacuum cleaner repair business that helps like Saul and Walt and eventually like Jesse and El Camino like get away and set up new lives and everything like that, right? Like, yeah, so maybe that was this dude because he kind of looks similar to him, the actor that played forget what his name, Ed Forrester, I think was his name. He actually passed away, but he was like a great character in the Breaking Bad universe, right? So maybe that was this guy. I don't know. He actually looks more like him than anybody else I can think of. So this is a guy that runs a vacuum cleaner repair business in a small town in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, that on Christmas Eve had nothing else to do but just drive around looking for a store that was open, walked into a Dollar Tree, and just looked around. So I'm like, yeah, okay, that's just sad. That's just, to me, that's like, aw, I feel for this guy, you know? I'm like, this guy, like, and we didn't talk about anything personal or anything, but like, I'm making up, like, this is why I think about this every Christmas. This is why this lives rent-free in my head. I'm always just like, man, what was the story here, right? Like, I'm always thinking, like, was he just, like if he was ever married, his wife might have passed away, or his partner might have passed away, and so there's no one around. If he did have children, maybe his children all grew up and, like, moved away, so they're not around here anymore. He didn't have any pets. He's just a guy that just runs his vacuum cleaner repair business and just, that's it, right? And he has nothing going on Christmas Eve. And I'm like, okay. And he ended up in Dollar Tree of all places, right? So we just chatted for like 45 minutes, right? And just like I enjoyed his company, he enjoyed my company. We're just talking about a bunch of stuff, just shooting the shit, passing the time. And then eventually, like 5 or so minutes before we close, Deb comes out from the back and she looks at both of us because she doesn't know. It's like, oh, hello, like what's going on here? And I'm just like, oh yeah, hey Deb, this is Peter. Just like, okay. So she's like, yeah, well, we're closing and like, we're about ready to close up now. And he was a nice guy. He wasn't like trying to like overstay his welcome or anything. He was very much about like, is like, oh, okay, yeah, I know you guys are closing. All right, well, you all have a good night, Merry Christmas and all that. And so he left, and I was like, yeah, Merry Christmas, man. You have a good one. And he smiled and he walked out, and then we closed the door and we locked it. And Deb looked at me and she was like, who's that guy? Did you know that guy? You were talking to him, and I'm just like, no, he was just a guy that came in here like an hour ago, and he wasn't buying anything. He wasn't looking at anything really. He was just kind of lonely. So I just started talking to him, and she's like, oh, okay, all right, that was a little weird. And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And it's like, but it's Christmas Eve, and it's like I felt for the guy, and that was it. We closed the store down, and then I left. That's the story. It's just like there's not much to it. It's just that's a story. Like every Christmas Eve, it's like, remember that guy that came into Dollar Tree and we just talked for an hour and that never saw him again, by the way. Never saw him again after that. Never came into Dollar Tree again after that, to my knowledge. Never saw him again. But like every Christmas, because like I said, I worked like every Christmas Eve because of that reason. So like every Christmas Eve, I would always be sitting around and I'd be like, huh, wonder if Peter's going to walk in again. That'd be a nice little tradition if he like came in like every Christmas Eve, like every few years he popped in. But nope, that was the only time I ever saw him. So I have no idea where he's at either. I have no idea what's up with his life. I hope he's in good health. I hope everything's good with him. And I hope he's still running that vacuum cleaner repair business, I guess. I don't know. I hope it's still it's up and running. Yeah. So anyway, that's the story. That's it. That's literally Like I said, there's no big finale there. That's just the story, right? Merry Christmas, everyone. Good night and happy holidays.